This video is brought to you by Storyblocks. Go to the link in the description below to learn more about Storyblocks video. When I was in school for marketing, they would use fashion as an example for pretty much everything. And we can look at the world of video and filmmaking a lot like we look at fashion, because what is cool, what's attractive, whether or not we like something, that is largely subjective. And oftentimes our opinions of what looks good or what doesn't is shaped by something we call trends. And for the past 3 or 4 years now, we've seen the internet and social media dominated by travel videos and cliches and a certain style of editing that many people would argue is overdone, or dare I say, outdated. Now, I'm sure you're already familiar with most of these, but just to name a few, we've got 120 frames per second slow motion, heavy teal and orange color grades, zoom transitions, excessive speed ramps, luma fades, whip pans, sky replacements, RGB splits, backflips in front of waterfalls, jeeps ripping through the desert, and the list goes on. So now here we are, about 4 months into 2019, and I feel like most of us are catching on to the idea that replicating and repeating these types of videos over and over again is becoming just a little bit boring. So does this mean we need to stop using teal and orange color grades, or we need to stop using zoom transitions or luma fades or whip pans or speed ramps? The answer is, of course not. All of these things are valuable editing techniques that can enhance a video as long as they're used tastefully. So before applying any of these effects or transitions to a video, always ask yourself, does it make sense? Does it make the video better? Or are you simply just doing it because it's the trendy thing to do? And so with all of that said, I've made a list of 5 things you can do in your videos now that are on trend for this year, 2019, and most likely going forward. So I actually created that video for my girlfriend Sarah, who's also got a channel here on YouTube, and she has the sponsorship with Canon where they wanted her to create a lifestyle type of video that showcases her using the Canon M100. And notice how there were only a few little effects in there. We had a speed ramp, a whip pan, there was even a little in-camera transition, but overall the video was less about flashy editing and transitions and more about conveying a lifestyle through some clean and concise shots. So let's go ahead and get a little bit into some of the techniques that I used. Number 1, instead of shooting the video entirely in slow motion or 120 frames per second, I actually used a mix of different frame rates to keep things more interesting and less monotone. For the majority of shots that aren't in slow motion, I used the Zhiyun Crane 2, and this helped me capture some really slow and steady camera movements. I think that one of the biggest mistakes people make when using a gimbal is to just kind of walk around aimlessly and hope to capture a couple seconds of usable footage, when in reality you should plan out your shots beforehand and execute the shot from start to finish the way you thought of it in your head. So again, you want to go for some nice and slow dramatic camera movements and make sure you actually plan it out in your head before you go and hit record. Number 2, try to use your fancy transitions and effects sparingly. So rather than adding a speed ramp or a zoom transition to every single clip, sprinkle your creativity strategically and tastefully throughout the edit. Like I mentioned before, in this edit I only used 1 speed ramp, 1 whip pan, and 1 in-camera transition, which I feel is enough to come off as impressive, but it still lets the video and the actual content speak for itself. The rest of the edit consists of very basic cuts from one clip to another, so we don't distract from the lifestyle vibe that we're trying to portray. Number 3, your color grade can absolutely make or break a video. So the teal and orange look is extremely popular, and there's a reason for that, but you want to make sure that you don't overdo it to the point where it looks cliche or amateur. In this video, I used a very subtle teal and orange style color grade, but generally I just try to keep the colors neutral and not overly vibrant or distracting. One look that is actually really popular nowadays is this very muted and flat style, which you actually see a lot of brands using in their ads, such as Nike. You could go with something like that, but generally speaking, just make sure that your videos aren't over contrasty or over saturated. If you're at all interested in the color grade presets that I use for my videos, I will have everything linked down below. Number 4, overlays are a very simple but awesome way to spice up your videos, and it's totally timeless because it's been around for decades due to the fact that it all started with actual film burns from film cameras. Now, I personally get all of my overlays from today's sponsor, Storyblocks Video. If you're ever in need of a quick video clip, whether that's some B-roll, a drone shot, motion backgrounds, or overlays, Storyblocks Video has you covered with their massive library packed with high quality content. And the best part is that all the footage is royalty free, which means you can use it for your YouTube tutorials, your vlogs, your wedding films, or any other client work. So if you would like to learn more about Storyblocks Video, then make sure you head down to the link in the description below. So what I like to do is load up Storyblocks Video, and I'll go ahead and type in something like film burn, and as you can see, we get a ton of results. Once I find one I like, I'll go ahead and download it, and when it's added to my footage, it instantly gives it this nice nostalgic feel. Overlays are so simple yet effective, and they've been around for ages, so if you've never tried it in one of your videos, I highly recommend it. Number 5. So this last one is actually really trendy currently, and I'm not sure if I'd consider it timeless, but it's one of those things where I feel like it can evolve and adapt over time. Now, if you've seen some of my videos before, then you might already know that I love to add borders. Borders are a great way to showcase photos within a video or indicate to your audience that whatever they're looking at is somehow different or separate from the rest of the video. In my edit, I used a simple white border to frame the photos, but I also used it for this one shot here combined with the film burn in behind the footage because I just felt like this was an interesting way to showcase the ending to the pizza scene. Now, keep in mind that all of these tips are just suggestions, and the great thing about making videos is that you can do whatever you want and your only limitation is your own creativity. But that is it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Follow me on Instagram at daniel.schiffer, and as always, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace!